Okay, so well done everyone yesterday. Lots of you, or I'd say about half of you have finished that worksheet on the basic angles. So well done, Harvey, Tom, Brooke, Alex, Becky, Theo, Will, George, Aaron, Eva, and Leo as well. Leo as well on with it as well. And lots of the rest of you have done very well in it too. Okay, so what I want us to do today is that there weren't that many questions on this topic on Dr. Frost. So if you do get these done quickly, please do go back and make sure you finish off yesterday's questions if you haven't finished them already. And then again, please don't just disappear if that doesn't take you long either. Do keep on working on something that you haven't completed yet, please. Okay, and I can help you on anything you're working about. So this again is, you know, as often as we can, when we're on a topic and we can actually use our skills to problem solve, that's what we're trying to do. So it's going to be another opportunity now that you've got some angles knowledge to construct and solve some expressions and equations. So let's just remind ourselves of this terminology, please. So when it's an expression, that does have equal sign in it. So an expression might be, for example, 5x plus 6. That would be constructing an expression. Now, I know you can't quite see it yet. We've got a bit of a lag. Here we go. So if an expression would be 5x plus 6. That will come through in a second, okay? And you couldn't solve that because it doesn't equal anything. You don't have enough information to solve it. So you could be asked to construct and simplify an expression, okay? Equally, the question might be worded in such a manner that it gives you more information and we can actually generate an equation. Again, I appreciate you still can't see this. This has been quite slow to come through. Okay, I expect it will suddenly will just burst through all in one go. So an equation might be something like 5x plus 6 equals 20. Okay, now suddenly once you've got an equal sign involved, you can solve it. So you can find the numbers involved. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for this to come through because it's important. There we go. It's important to appreciate the difference. Okay, an expression is just giving you a few terms. 5x and 6 are terms, but it might be that you can actually construct an equation. All right, and once you've got an equal sign in there, and that's the first part of the word equation, then it is possible to go on and solve them. Okay. So today's worksheet will be a combination of the two. Now, I'm just going to try and model the various types of questions that could come through. But again, I'm very mindful of the fact we seem to have a huge lag at the moment. So I'm just going to wait. Oh, well, there we go. It's catching up a bit. Now, you might get an equation and a question like this to write down x in terms of y and z. Now, all that means is you've got to do stuff and end up with a final answer, which is x equaling stuff, and that stuff on the right side will include y and z. So if we get a question that says write down x in terms of y and z, you've got to go and do some work, okay, and end up with it being x equals blah, blah, blah. And on that right hand side, it will include the letters y and z. So let's have a think about how would we do this. What do we know from yesterday's angle knowledge? We know that the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So we could go and say that x plus y plus z equals 180 degrees as our first line of workings. Now we want to get x on its own. We want x equaling stuff. So we need to undo that plus y and we need to undo that plus z. Now I'm going to do these both in one go. I'm going to go and take away y and take away z from both sides. I'm going to take away y and I take away z from both sides. So I'm left with x equals 180, take away y, take away z. That's how I do my z's, with that little line through it. Okay, so all I've done there, my first line in red, I've started off with my fact that I know. I know that the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So I know that x plus y plus z equals 180. The question's asking me to write down x in terms of y and z. So I've got to have my final answer being x equaling something. And on that right-hand side, part of my answer is going to be including the terms y and z. So I expect as you go into these, I might need to help you a little bit, but it will click. You will see what's going on. So there are going to be some questions on the worksheet that look a little bit like that. Now, we could get questions like this. Okay, so part A, 1A, write down an equation in terms of x. Now remember, an equation is going to have an equal sign. So what do we know? Well, we know the angles in the triangle add up to 180. So we know these three angles. So x plus 10 plus 3x plus 20 plus 2x. When we add all three of those together, our answer should be 180. So again, there's a bit of a lag, but you'll see it come through in a minute that we're going to have the x plus 10, which I've done in red. Then I've added on to that the 3x plus 20 in blue. Then finally that 2x in green. Those three angles together equals 180. Now that's kind of answered part A. It's right. I've written down an equation in terms of x, but they'll probably ask you to simplify your equation. So remember how we do that. We gather up our like terms. So on the left-hand side, let's gather up together all the terms which have got x in them. So we've got x and 3x and 2x. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6x. And then we've then added on the normal numbers. So the normal numbers, we've got plus 10, plus 20, which is plus 30. And that equals 180. So that really answers part 1A. We've written down an equation in terms of x. So again, we've got a bit of a lag. Okay, so I've added up my x's. X plus 3x plus 2x was the 6x. The 10 added to the 20 was the 30, and that equaled 180. Now 1b is now asking me to go and solve that equation. I've now got to do my normal maths to find out what x is. So remember how we do this. We need to undo the information on both sides. So how do we undo that plus 30? We take away 30 from both sides. So on the left-hand side, we're left with 6x, because plus 30 take away 30, that's cancelled out. And that equals 180 take away 30, which is 150. So I've nearly got x on its own. I now need to go and undo the 6. Remember, 6x means 6 times x, x times 6. How do I undo a timesing by 6? I divide by 6. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. So x is going to equal 150 divided by 6, which is 25 degrees. So if they'd asked, I could now have gone on and worked out what all those angles were, couldn't I? That one in red is x plus 10. Well, I've just worked out x to be 25, so that one would be 35. The one in green is 2 lots of whatever x is, so 2 lots of 25, which is 50. And the one in blue would be 3 lots of whatever x is, so that's 75. Add 20, that would be 95. And then, of course, I could check my answers, couldn't I? Those three angles must add up to 180, and I think they do. Okay, now question number 2, very similar, but remember what fact you know about quadrilaterals. Okay, angles in a triangle add up to 180, but angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. So adding up all of those angles, so we've got the y plus 10, the 3y plus 15, the 2y plus 15, and the 2y, add that all together, and I know that must equal a total of 360. So notice how for the quadrilateral, it added up to 360, but for the triangle earlier on, it added up to 180. Again, we've got a bit of a lag here. That 360 is for the quadrilateral, is what I'm just about to fluorescent pen in green. But for the triangle earlier on, it was the 180, which I'm just fluorescent penning in orange. So they've asked us to find out what y is. So we've now got to use our algebra skills. So gather up all the y's. Well, we've got 1 y there, plus another 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 lots of y. Again, we've got a lag, I'm afraid. But when we add up all of those y's, I'm going to get 8 lots of y. I can then add up my normal numbers. So that's 10, add 15, which is 25, add another 15, which is 40, and that equals 360. Take away 40 from both sides. I get 8y equaling 320. Divide by 8, I get y being 40 degrees. So again, I could work out all those individual angles if I wanted to. So thank you for listening, guys. I will, if you would like to go and have a look at the questions I've set on Dr. Frost, it's titled Angles, Constructing Expressions and Equations. Right, they should be there. If somebody could just give me a wave to confirm that they can actually see that the questions have come through okay. That would be good to know. And I will go, yes, thank you, Harvey. So I will go and stop this recording. So you're then very welcome to put your cameras back on if you wish. And obviously, as always, I will help you if you get stuck. And just to repeat what I said earlier on, please, if you get these done quickly,